You've been well, Francesco?
Yes, things have been good. I just
Yes,
finished a big Zoom class this morning and we had
fantastic.
about 30 people. It was really beautiful, really wonderful
Hmm.
people from 4 to 5 different countries. And it's really honoring, to me that we can have
Yeah.
this kind of thing happening and people come from all over to want to learn about Qigong. I mean, it really is a beautiful gift.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
I love that you said that because when I was sitting here thinking, collecting my thoughts, the reason why I'm so passionate about having a retreat here is because I want this gift of Qigong that's been given to me to be spread in my home country, you know.
Yes.
There have been Qigong teachers who have come in the past, roughly around the time when I was just being introduced to it, um, maybe about more than 20 years ago now, and nobody since. And I feel really strongly that it's something that could benefit so many people in my country.
Well, you've done a lot yourself to keep it moving, and that's a lot on your shoulders.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it's great that you get associated as a doctor and as a practitioner who follows it for himself and then sharing it. I mean, this is really, I think for me, the key to Qigong. How does it get applied? Is it something that just
Mhm.
sits out there, you know, and is some esoteric thing, or is it something that's really practical that you can apply to life? And you're showing that you can do that. And I try to live
Yeah.
my life by that as well.
Yeah, I do notice that in everything that you say, the interactions that we've had and the what comes across in the little sharings that you have that you put up on
Mm.
YouTube, how much you try to integrate it into your life and how it helps you to face with the challenges and so on.
Yeah.
And that's been something that other teachers haven't highlighted as much, the integration. And I really love that.
Yeah. I think when people have an ego, and I use that word carefully, around what they teach. In other words, an identity. Ego can be used in different ways to describe how we get attached to our identity and how it can represent a certain kind of fear. And identity is
Hmm.
like that, right? So if we teach something out of that place, then we want to make the thing we teach so special because there's a part in us that needs to be validated. So I'm going to put out in front of me my carpentry and I'm going to teach carpentry. And it's so special and important that if you do plumbing, uh, you're not as good as a carpenter type of thing.
Hmm.
And it doesn't, it doesn't sound so far out there when you apply it to Qigong as well. And when you see Qigong as something universal and beautiful and helps so many people, and it's not yours anyway. So what I share is just my 40 or 50 years of this journey. And then, you know, help people understand that yes, it's a beautiful thing. Yes, there's some cool things you learn in the practice. But if you don't apply it to your life, if you don't apply it to each and everything, every relationship, every encounter, every application, whether it's healing or just, your experience in life, then I think you miss the point of it. So
Hmm.
to me, that's the joy of this. When you have a tool that you can use in many different ways, and then it helps
Yeah.
other people, right? Because if we strengthen ourselves emotionally, spiritually, on a body, mind, spirit level, then everyone around us benefits. So it's a good thing. And so even people who aren't so interested in Qigong, I see sometimes they will think it's a little strange, or they might not be interested in it, or they say that it doesn't apply to them, it's not for them. And then they're the first people who end up coming down later and say, hey, I've got this terrible digestion issue. I heard this Qigong could help, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or I got a sore back that won't go away. Chronic things tend to be the real benefit of Qigong many times. Do you find that in your practice?
Absolutely. Yeah. I try to teach some of my patients, different exercises that I might think might be applicable. And everybody feels the results. Absolutely everybody, who I get this sort of resonance that they would benefit from it. If they practice it with me in the encounter, in the clinical encounter, and then go home and maybe do it a few more times. They really tell the difference. And there's a sense that they immerse into this chi field that we've
Yeah.
spoken about. And it's just this space in which all sorts of things can happen, all sorts of things
Yeah.
that
And
they didn't
I
think
think
was
a lot of
possible
people
before.
don't think that it's possible. They've gotten so trained that you have to go to a doctor and get medicine or surgery or some other
Yeah.
invasive thing that maybe can make you feel better. And then you're dependent on the doctor. You're dependent on the thing, the medication or the surgery. And many times those are temporal in terms of their results. That means in a very short period of time, you end up going back because they haven't addressed the core issue inside them. And Qigong to me is something that brings us a certain power and ability to go to the core, the causality of what got us sick in the first place. And some people would say, well, I don't have any real sickness. I'm a healthy person, but they might have emotional type of challenges. Some people may not have emotional challenges or physical ailments, but they have a spiritual. And you have to say, well, what's a spiritual thing? Well, this is the kind of deeper questions that nag at us. And then the things that make us confused and lose our confidence and get us frustrated. Then it ends up being an emotional, mental thing. And then it ends up being a physical. So the field you speak of is the integrated place that we all know. It's common sense that body, mind, and spirit all work together. And as I've written in my new book, the Qi effect is how do we trigger that ability within us? How do we trigger that Qi effect? How do we get life force energy that the Chinese called Qi, but a lot of cultures had names for it, that can trigger that ability for us to come back into health and harmony? So I think what we're going to be doing on Tobago is a great opportunity. And Trinidad too, we have classes to be able to help turn people on to how basic this stuff really is and how learning a few tricks, a few movements, a few changes of our belief system can really benefit.
Mm-hmm. And could you tell us a little bit about what you intend to teach here, which is the organ cleansing qigong? Tell me
Yeah.
a little bit about where the roots of that come from and what people can expect to get out of it.
Yeah, the organ cleansing is something very interesting. As you know, as a doctor, we don't have a great relationship with our body,
Yeah,
right? When people
yeah,
think of an organ, it's fascinating. The first thing they think of when they think of lung is they think of, oh, well, lung cancer or respiratory issues. And COVID was a big example of that. All the thinking, all the attitudes about our lungs were more on the negative side. And we
hmm
tend to have that same kind of relationship with our body. And it's fascinating to me that people don't realize how powerful that subconscious languaging about our body affects our body. So the organ cleansing Qigong is a bunch of moves. I've been teaching this for over 25 years now. And it's in Chinese language, it's called Zhangfu Gong. And Zhangfu is the inner organs. And in traditional Chinese medicine, those 5 organ systems represent the 5 elements and they represent the 5 emotions. So all of a sudden, you realize the ancients had an insight. They didn't have a perfect view or a perfect world model, but they had a very clear insight that our emotions affect our body and our body out of alignment affects our emotions. So what we're going to be going through is a series of moves. I think there's 16 moves in the organ cleansing form, and they're all pretty easy moves. If anybody's done any kind of introductory yoga or a Tai Chi type of moves, they feel like that in a way. And they're deceptively simple, Nilash. A lot of people do it and they say, okay, I've got the move, so what? Well, it's the thought behind it, because what makes Qigong is understanding breath and building your ability to super oxygenate your body, to learn how to breathe better. And people will tell me, well, I breathe. I would be dead if I didn't breathe. I go, but look where you're at. You're stuck at a survival level of breathing.
yeah.
People don't realize there's a better way to breathe. And all of a sudden they get more energy. Various ailments and pain go away just from the breathing part of Qigong. But there's 2 more, and that's the movement part. That's why there's 16 different moves in this that help us. If anybody's had acupuncture, they know that there's these meridians run through our body. We'll be teaching in this workshop how to understand those meridians and work with moves that activate those meridians, those energy lines in our body. That's why acupuncture works. And when we activate those, we activate Qi. That's what I call the Chi effect. What the name of the new book is. How do we access this life force energy that we really didn't even incorporate in our life? We thought it was something out there, but it really has got to be something that every day you can do a little bit of this. And people are fascinated that a little bit of breathing, a little bit of movement, and the third part of Qigong, which I think is maybe the most important, and you might agree, this part. What's
The
your
intention.
attitude?
Yeah.
How are you thinking about your body? So if I'm thinking of my lungs negatively, then what's going to happen with that function of your body, of your lungs? You sent a subconscious message that's so much more impactful than we even think. So when we start to incorporate the breath and the movement and that new change of beliefs, the ancient Greeks call it metanoia, a change in the way you think. Together, those things create a change in your whole body, mind, and spirit. I've watched people, I've been teaching this, like I said, for a quarter of a century, and I've watched people around the world have these incredible breakthroughs. And they'll tell me, I didn't even know that this could be fixed. My doctor said this couldn't have been repaired. People will say, I thought I had to live with this all my life. And then there's the other people who are healthy, but they're missing something. So we'll be teaching in this workshop different ways that you can use these exercises and maybe, just maybe, apply it in the most subtle ways in your life, where not only is it more energy or better health, but you get a different kind of outlook. You get a different way to look at the world. And trust me, I mean, you've been certified in the Wuji Hundun form of Qigong.
Mm-hmm.
You know how I approach these things. It's to take in your whole life with a big embrace and say, once I see the world this way, I can't turn back. So this training is really for people who are responsible people. People who really want to say, I'm really tired of the way things are in the world. I'm tired about the people around me. I'm tired of how negative things are. And maybe I'm even a little tired about how I'm looking at myself, and I can't get out of that hump. I want more. I know that there is more. That's how I approach Qigong. That's how I learned about it when I was a teenager studying with an old master, back in the 70s, for heaven's sakes. And my journey has continued in that. So I'm really honored to teach this workshop. And whether people come for 2 days, we have great benefits. It's a big thing for some people. If it's new for you, or if you know other Qigong, maybe 2 days is enough to really get a deep immersion in it. But for the people who are courageous enough to do a 5-day deep dive, I think it's like going on a holiday. You go on a weekend trip, it's fun. You end up going back to work. You haven't really disengaged enough. But when you go on these 5-day excursions with a group of people who have like mind, with good people who all are positive and feed back to you what you are hoping for is, yes, there are other people in the world like me, that kind of thing. Then all of a sudden, the 5 days becomes a real holiday from the rat race of life and the negative kind of conditioning we have into a place where you can really say, I can shift and be aligned now in this new way of thinking. And I think there's good benefits from that. And I've watched it for lots of people.
I love what you say there about bringing a like-minded group of people together, because to me the analogy that comes to mind is like, a retreat like that tends to be like an oasis where you get nourished in a different way. There's clean water, because a lot of the times people find that in their regular lives they can't have these kinds of conversations. They can't talk about the
Absolutely.
things that they really make them buzz. And when you get to come together with a group of people like this, and usually a lot of strangers, but they resonate with the same things you resonate with, it can be so uplifting at the same time.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, how many people who are interested in these things have families who don't relate to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many times are we in a family situation where we may be the only one thinking about that there's more to life, or that Qigong may be an interesting pathway? So many times our family isn't even the best example of people to hang around with and talk about these things. You know, I'm the oldest of 9 kids. I only have a couple in my family who are even open to it, and it took years for that. So when you can come to a workshop and then you're around people, you realize, oh my God, this is a whole nother different kind of family. These are people like more of a heart-centered family of people who are like me. I didn't even realize there were people like me. And that's empowering. I think to me, it gives me a lot of faith when I travel around the world and I go to different countries and I see how many beautiful people there are out there, Nilash, who are looking and are similar. They're more similar than they're different, you know? And, you know, when I was teaching in Poland this last winter, I was classes had 40, 50 people in them, and they were young people. And I was feeling so happy in my heart that people in their 20s and young 30s were coming to these workshops and getting benefits out of it. Now, these are healthy young people, right? These are normal people who go to a yoga class or something like this. So they're not coming there because they've got ailments or aches or pains like older people. They're coming for something else. And I'm seeing more and more people coming to Qigong classes because of that refinement. They know that survival gets them up this level, but they want to do more than just survive. So that means their body is at the survival level. You're in your 20s or 30s, you feel really healthy, but you know there's something more. The something more is that expanded vision that gets our mind and emotions and spirit into a place of clarity. We make better decisions that way, right? You feel better about yourself. Your confidence goes up. You realize there's another way to be in life. And then the benefit is that shift in belief system, that shift in discovering new techniques in breathing and visualizing, inner kind of moving meditations, give you a certain preventative ability. So as you do get older, you know, bless the people who are young and do this in their 30s, because then what happens, by the time you get into your 50s and 60s, you've already got the tool set to have created a preventative layer. And I see a big difference. And that's a
Yeah.
really wonderful thing.
What I loved about what you just said there, again, the imagery that comes to mind is that, you know, it's the kind of thing that stitches humanity back together. And we're
Yeah.
going through this time now where everybody is just so fed up with everybody else, and we're fed up with what we're seeing going on around us, and everybody's just sort of like, you know, they know we shouldn't be this divided, we shouldn't be this disconnected. And you know, these kind of things that you're talking about, where you find your chi family, you go there and you find your family from the heart, it starts to stitch people back together. And this is more important now than ever before.
Yeah. Remember what we said before about fear and identity. Everybody falls prey to that. And when you realize that there's powers out there that want you to cling to an identity so that you're separate from others, there's powers out there that benefit from you being fearful. So if you're an identity that separates you from others, and if the fear separates you from others, you can be easily controlled. So I think what a lot of the young people are realizing, and everybody realizes that in Qigong, and the way I teach it at least, is that it's a path of empowerment. And then all of a sudden, when fear does come up, we can transform it and tap it for this intuitive power that's behind it. And then the identity part shifts because we start thinking of ourselves more than just a physical body. And we start to understand the energetic body. And then all of a sudden, I don't have to be tied to even what I look like or my age or gender. All of a sudden, I'm more than that, and I can operate more than that. And now I can connect with others at that level. So now we're not connecting with people at a very low vibration. We're connecting with people at a very high vibration. That's how we bring the global community back. That's how we shift what's happening in the world that's stemming from fear and isolation and separation. And so to me, although nobody ever taught me that that's what Qigong was or what it could be, I'm realizing that is what the promise of this kind of practice is, because it's a transformational process to help us really link together and bring the world to a healthier place. And we have to start in communities. So we start in a workshop, and that group of people is like a seed. And then they go back to their families, and those family members who maybe didn't agree with you, all of a sudden they say, Nilash, why are you smiling more? Why do you have more confidence? Why don't you get upset and angry like everybody else does? They start to see that there are strategic ways to disengage from this insanity that we're seeing in the world. Mm-hmm. And it's by being in the world, but being different. What do they say? Be in the world, but not of it. And so people who practice like this have a certain level of confidence and strength. And of course, they become healthy on a mind, body, and spirit level. But then you have a responsibility, because now you know you can help other people get that way. And that's the gift of this. It's not a selfish practice as much as it seems like it, but you become selfish in the sense of, I've got to put me first. And when I do, I can really be better for other people around me. That's how we could change the world, Nilash. I mean, person by person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And we need it more than ever now. Absolutely more than ever.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? What I notice because I've been doing Qigong by myself for many, many years, and then very occasionally you get a chance to go to a retreat and, you do some Qigong with other people. And then now that I've been teaching it and you do Qigong in a class, it's just this huge difference with doing Qigong together with other people. My concept of it is the Qi field is just so much more expanded,
Sure.
and the effect that you get out of it just doing Qigong in a group doing it by yourself is great, but doing it in a group is so much better. Could you speak a little bit to that and tell me what your thoughts are?
Yeah, it's insightful, because it's a continuation of what we just said. When people start redefining who they are, not as this isolated body or this face or this image or all your belief systems about separation, but when you start to open up and start to see yourself as more than that, when you're with other people of like mind, you realize that those fields start to interweave like a big tapestry, right? Kind of like that hut roof behind you. The weaving makes a tighter and tighter mesh that you start to realize you're being fed by the people around you, and you are contributing to that field and feeding others. This redefines who we are. So by being in a group, especially a group of people who understand that they're more than just the physical, you've now incorporated what we call in Qigong the Wei Qi field, or the energy field. This field isn't just isolated to you like your skin is. It's an interactive field. And everybody knows that. I mean, at a common sense level, we know that when we're with a person we like, or a positive person, something about our fields mesh. Like you and I knew right off the bat when we first met, there was a simpatico vibe. Just through that, there's already a step of contributing to something bigger. When you get multiple people in, the same thing happens. And what we find in Qigong classes, people all come with a certain kind of mindset that they all want something more. They all know that they're more than what they think they are. And so now that Wei Qi field is contributed by that group thinking, and everybody benefits. I've seen things happen in a group that couldn't happen when you're by yourself. It's the nature. Because when we understand quantum physics and we understand how entangled every atom is, and they're only apparently not entangled when we have a mindset like a racehorse and you put those blinds on. But when we open up and we're given permission to open up those blinds and we can see each other for what we are, now that entanglement is a contributing factor to our growth, as it is to the others, as it is to the group. And we start to see the power of that group energy that can help everyone. So that's, I think, to me, what has propelled me doing this for these decades.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
So what I want to do is I just so happened that I'm in Tobago, because I usually live in Trinidad.
Yes.
It just turned out that I was here. The timing of this Zoom call is just show people a little bit about where we're at. So we're in the Karawak Karak Holistic Hotel. And this is the Ajupa hut that we will be using to do our Qigong in February.
It's
And it's a
beautiful.
great space. It's fantastic. So Ajupa is an Amerindian term. So it comes from the indigenous peoples who would have populated the South and Central Americas. And it's octagonal. And that is so Qigong,
Oh
it's so
yes.
it's so Taoist. So that's fantastic. And there have been retreats here before. There've been Qigong done here before, and they've got lovely gardens. Um, it's such a fantastic space for being able to do this.
Yeah, it
As well
seems
as
like
that,
a very conscious place. I've checked their
yeah,
website out, and I am and spoke with some of the people there, and they're amazing. I
yeah,
mean, there's a real
yeah,
consciousness to the food that's grown there, the
yes,
environment, the respect for the environment, and that's all very qigong principles. It's about
yes,
how to be holistic and live a
yes.
conscious life.
All of the herbs and spices that are used in their cooking, it comes from their gardens. And
Fabulous,
they've been doing that for decades, and it really tells in the food that they produce.
fabulous.
Such a conscious space. So I want to extend an invitation to everybody who sees this to come along and join us for this retreat. We have quite a few people who are already interested, and I think it's going to be great. It's going to be absolutely great.
Yeah, and to be in a warm place in the winter for, I know the
Mm.
people that are coming in from Europe and the United States, is a nice thing, but it's
Yeah,
more than that. It's coming together in a place that brings like-minded people together. And I thank you so much for the work you do, and your work in Trinidad is fantastic and helps so many people in your practice. And so to be able to be a teacher as you are, but to be a perpetual student, I think is a sign of a real doctor, as a person who always constantly learning new things. And I'm so happy to share because I learned from wonderful teachers myself. So the elder masters I studied with in China and Thailand and India were all people who were of that age where they wanted to teach me as a young man things that they knew I was going to share with others. So that's what this whole journey is about. And everyone who takes this workshop will then be empowered because they will now be a carrier of that information. And it's impossible not to share it with somebody, especially when you know it's positive and it works for you. So I really look forward to seeing you again and to be together with a group of people who will come together for this. And I know that there's a lot of good benefits, especially in a time right now in a world that's very challenging. We really need tools to help us do what I call the interpersonal energy prepping. So this
Mhm.
is time for that. So thank you, Nilash. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Francesco. Thanks for making the time to do this Zoom call.
Always. Peace.
All right. Okay. Take care.